Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Unstoppable Mumpreneurs Telesummit, where by now you've seen quite a number of our experts sharing with us the habits, strategies, and insider secrets that have helped them to overcome any obstacle and earn an amazing income doing what you love. And it has definitely inspired me, and it has inspired many moms along the way so far to let them know they can do same. You can do same. So today we have another awesome expert mompreneur with us. Her name is Alexis Logan. And we're going to learn a bit more about Alexis as I get into her bio here in a second. And most definitely we'll learn even more as we roll through this interview. All right, so Alexis is a healer and mindset coach who helps entrepreneurs and leaders break through their mindset and energy blocks to wealth by aligning their business with their soul's purpose. The creator of the Wealth Code Activation, she's helped some of the most successful coaches and thought leaders get clear on their soul purpose, simplify their business, and reach their next level of success in less time. Alexis believes when you know your soul purpose and use intuition, you'll discover a simpler approach to your goals and that reduces stress, creates ease, and opens you up to amazing opportunities. Alexis, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's an absolute delight. It's truly a pleasure. Thank you. So, Alexis, can you tell us a bit about yourself, a bit about your wonderful son, and tell us a bit about also, your entrepreneurial journey. What made you decide to become a mompreneur?
Well, it wasn't necessarily a conscious choice at the time.
Okay.
I've been in business about 5 years now. Mm-hmm. I went full-time in 2012, mm-hmm. and I was single, no children, just looking to have a good time. And I met my boyfriend in March 2012. And by August, we've only been together 4 months. We were actually in the middle of breaking up when I found out that I was pregnant. Okay. And had to make a big decision about what I'm going to do, because I never dreamed of like getting married. Like I never was the girl who played dress up and like wedding dresses or anything like that. Or it was like, oh, here's a baby. I was not that girl. And so this was a huge decision. And so I was like, okay, you know what? It's here. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna decide to be a mom. And I started trying to attempt to baby proof my business at that point, which didn't go very well. But it was an interesting adventure. And one of the things that came up a lot was I felt this warring within me of who am I as woman and ambitious, and how do I meld that with this new identity I was going to have as mom. And so the first couple of years, my son is now 3. His name is Kale. And the first few years were really rough because my inner winner was like, oh no, I am mom and this, and I am woman and hear me roar. And I have this dream to start this amazing business. And it was this a bit of warring until I think I probably settled down about last year, maybe like the last year and a half of allowance. Really using my intuition more, using principles, of course, I teach my clients, of really applying to myself, into that, and allowing things to come forward while I get to be, mom too. So it was definitely, it's been an adventure.
Sounds like it. Wonderful. And your son is Kyle, you said?
Kale.
Kale.
Yes.
Wonderful, beautiful name, lovely. So, this was quite an active start. A lot of, as you said, warring, a lot of inner warring happening there with you, trying to baby-proof the business. Assimilate the identity of becoming mom and melding all those things together, and of course hormones.
Definitely
having their say as well. So what were some of the challenges that you experienced early days of your business, and how did you overcome them?
So I think that the biggest thing when I had started before I got pregnant with my son was that I had just finished a training in Akashic Records. And for those who aren't familiar with Akashic Records, these are the records of your soul. And so I was an Akashic Records consultant, helping people to get back to themselves on a deeper level. And at the time, I was using them to help women to heal their body image so they could really allow themselves to get healthy in a way in which they weren't beating themselves up, trying to choose the right foods and all of this. And I really found that there were a lot of belief illusions that women had that actually prevented them from making real conscious change. So that's where I was in 2012. And I had this coach at the time, and she and I were always butting heads because she would tell me one thing and I'd be like, I've got this feeling inside of me that says to do something else. But I kept negating that inner voice at the time. And so finally, when I had been coaching with her for like 4 months and hadn't made any money whatsoever, I decided, you know what, I think I'm just going to listen to myself. And so I followed my own kind of inner knowing, like I'm going to do a teleseminar. She was like, you don't have a big enough list to do that. I had asked a couple of people, I was terrified, asked people to do a JV promotion for me and all of that. And I had 100 people on my first teleseminar. I had like 30 people book strategy sessions. I was a terrible salesperson, terrible closer. So I only got like 5 clients out of like 30 conversations, not the greatest conversion rate. But it showed me to a certain level that I knew what I was doing. And if I trusted that, then, things would actually go well. So I wish I could say that I sailed off into the sun and made 7 figures after that.
But I don't think anyone has been able to say that so far. Seriously.
But it was always this challenge of how do you trust yourself and know what your instincts are telling you are true versus when do you go with what's been tried and true. And so that's really, I think, other than the challenge of mom and hormones, has been one of the other challenges of building a business is when do you trust yourself? Because when we look at other entrepreneurs out there who've made it, they've had unconventional pathways. And yet we have all these blueprints and all of these things telling you this is what you got to do. But ultimately, when we get to the point of where we're making money, it will always rise up. It never goes away. That we have this inner voice that says, actually, we're going to do business this way, or let's be a pioneer for this cause or this movement. And so I think that's also been one of my biggest challenges. And of course, I teach, we teach what we are most challenged by. We've gotten, a few steps ahead, is knowing when to trust yourself and really follow those bits of inspiration to the letter. And then when do you go and learn a specific skill set that has maybe a blueprint to it that you add into your business?
Okay.
So that's really where I've been.
Okay. Now, I'm just going to jump back a little bit in this instance. Akashic Records. I have never heard of Akashic Records before, searching you out, researching you, and chatting with you. Excuse me, our first chat. I would hazard a guess that there are probably a few Mumpreneurs out there who have never heard of Akashic Records either. Did you want to tell us just briefly a little bit about that? What is it, and how do you use it? What does it help us to do?
So Akashic Records are the records of your soul. So imagine like there's a spiritual database, spiritual computer out there that knows everything about you, thoughts, emotions, past lives, where you are now in this dimension versus other dimensions, other planes, other times. The concept of the Akashic Records is everything is happening all at once. So past, present, and future happening all at the same time. And it's this amazing database where we can go get information and look at what's going on for you right now in any area of your life, whether it be your business, with money, your body, relationships, your own soul spirituality, and it can help you to bridge the gap through whatever difficulty you're going through, whatever obstacles. There's usually what I like to call illusions of separation, like we have our own ego come up and says certain things, what we think about is our reality. But when you get back to who you are on soul level, there's so many truths that at that point you can totally integrate and really own that are true for you. And I think it's just a beautiful tool to use to really get confident in who you are, know who you are at soul level, and then allow your gifts and your talents that are just there for you to tap in to come forward. And so I've used it for healing body image and helping women break through like very much ingrained societal illusions and things like that. I've helped them also to get clear on their business. Like, what is the purpose down at soul level and how does it translate into your business? What does your soul's wealth blueprint look like? How much money are you actually here to make? And can we start to have you to know that?
Does it tell you that?
Yes.
Okay.
So I can read where people are in their money journey and know what's there for them if they're being fully themselves, fully allowing their soul purpose to come through, how much money that could be making.
So I'm going to ask a question here, and it isn't that overly money conscious, I would like to think, but have you ever had anyone who is disappointed with the amount that they're here to make? Or, is it that sort of information that you get?
So I've had people, and it changes. So nothing is ever written in stone. So one of the biggest like disclaimers I want to put on this is that anything that you're choosing in the moment has its own pathway within the records. So if you're choosing to make $100,000, and what your information you're going to get is going to be about that 100,000. But if you're like, no, I know there's something big within me, I know I'm a 7-figure earner, then that pathway is just a little bit different.
Okay.
So when I first read for people, sometimes they have a lower amount and it is disappointing. Maybe they're only at a level where they're making like 80,000 or something like that. And but they really want to be making 250. And usually there's some wealth consciousness upgrades they need to make within their own mindset and things like that they have to work on, where they can actually get in a line to a higher amount of money. But a lot of people are actually surprised. I say the majority of people I read for are big movement people. So they've got higher figures, usually between $500,000 to maybe $1 million, multiple 7 figures. Within them already.
Okay. This sounds absolutely awesome. It's the comprehensiveness about it, and it's truly, truly phenomenal. Lovely. We have to chat some more about this after. I really, really do like it as a concept. Okay, so coming back to this, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that piece. So, you've been in business now, how many years now? Is that
5 years?
5 years, that's right. So 5 years in, what are some of the challenges that still come up for you, and how do you manage them?
Well, so my son is 3 now, and I would love to be like one of those moms that has a child who sleeps through the night. My son's
you and me both.
He wakes up a few times. And so I think my biggest angst, oh my gosh, last year was I was so angry because I was so tired all the time. Like I would have to take naps during the day. And so, because he was just getting up in the middle of the night, it was pacifier this, the blanket got knocked off and he couldn't pull it back on, it was those little things. And my boyfriend sleeps like the dead, of course. Like, moms, like we're light sleepers. We'll hear a pin drop in the middle of the night and be like, what's going on? And I'm such a light sleeper. So that's been one of the biggest things, is like getting enough sleep and taking care of myself so that I can actually grow my business. And that probably was one of the most stifling things. And I remember my mom always telling me, just give us another 90 days and it'll pass and you'll be fine and you'll be laughing at, all this. I'm like, Mom, it's been 6 months and I'm not laughing now. And I think that's been the biggest thing, and realizing how much when you're working on a business and you are the sole person and sole energy fueling it, behind it, you've got to really be taking care of yourself. And so part of me got upset, like, oh, it's stunting my growth and it's stunting, how much money I could be making. and that's not a great place to be in. But what I learned from that is when you can actually focus on serving from your potency and owning your value, that was the challenge, was owning my value so much so that my pricing was really aligned with what people were receiving. And so while I didn't have many clients, I was actually making a good amount of money. And people can make, oh my God, Alexis, you're charging that for 6 months or you're charging that for 3 months. I'm like, yeah.
Good for you.
I was like, I own that I am magic and I can do that thing. And I'm going to, and the greatest part about it was no one was questioning my pricing. Like my colleagues who are in a different level, like mentality wise, in terms of what they thought they could earn, they were questioning it. But when doing the sales calls and having people go, well, yeah, it's going to be $7,500 for 3 months. And people going, all right, you take it or leave it, because that's what, this is really the only option. They would actually step forward and they would either choose in or they would choose out. And for me, I was at a point of just non-attachment. Like, I know who I'm here to serve. I know what I'm here to do. Jump on board, don't jump on board. It has nothing to do with me. So it was like, I'm happy to serve as long as you're willing to be open, to stepping in and work with me in my business. So it was a different level of ownership. And I like to call it core confidence. Like we have our confidence where we are confident in our abilities, but then it doesn't exactly translate to being core confident. Like, I'm just confident because I'm here and I'm alive. And so for me, it was that lesson in ownership of that core confidence.
That is what came through very, very loudly, very, very clearly. It's a deep-seated, as you said, core confidence. And the confidence of any nature is something that I think a lot of us women struggle with, especially a lot of moms, and let alone, achieving that level of core confidence. And also, I think it must have helped that people could see the value in what you did. People can see that you weren't desperate either, because I always say desperation has a smell to it, and people stay away from desperation and things that they don't like the smell of, so you didn't exude any of that. You were quite comfortable within yourself, and I think that really worked. And plus, what you had to offer was of value, and people got that. So good on you. Good on you.
Well, with the path there was a little ugly, of course, but it's like you wake up one day and you're like, you're either going to own that you're awesome and you do creates a difference in the world, or you're not.
I like that.
Continue to be in the gray area around it.
Yeah, own that you are awesome. Own, and I'm writing it down. Ladies, write that down, please, and stick it on your forehead, on your mirror, on your wall. Last thing you see at night, first thing you see waking up in the morning. Own that you are awesome. I love that, because we are. We've heard all sorts of rubbish out there that would attempt to make us feel otherwise, and very unfortunately, many of us have bought into it. But no. I like that. Own your awesomeness. Great. All right. So the next one for you. Do you work with men as well?
I do. I have a couple of male clients.
Fantastic.
They are few and far between, I can say, but they mostly come to me when they are ready to start to learn how to utilize their feminine side. And a lot of them are actually it's interesting because it's a play on relational stuff as well. Most of them are not used to being around someone who is so comfortable being in her feminine, who knows that she's also very powerful as well. So it's super cool when I get to work with them, because they're just like, I don't got all these feelings. What do I do with them? And I'm like, you need to meditate and do that.
Yeah.
So it's super fun to work with them at the beginning, and then they soar.
Yeah. So with the women you work with, and so you then work with women in the main, especially in particular here, mompreneurs. What's the number one obstacle that you see getting in their way that holds them back from doing more, being more, having more? And what would you recommend to help them overcome that?
Well, I think it comes down to, there's so many things. I think it's the push-pull of mom versus ambitious career woman that comes across very, very strongly. Another piece of this is having an unsupportive partner, or a partner is still skeptical about what they can do in their business.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's them, owning who they are instead of running around like a chicken with their head cut off, putting all these fires and serving everyone else first. So those, I think, are the top three. And the biggest things I think we work through is owning their desires and allowing themselves to be served first so that they can serve others. And not all moms do this, but I think there's a way in which sometimes we enable our partners and our children that doesn't necessarily give them a level of independence to take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
And so when they can trust that things are going to be okay, even if they're not in the room or they're not like fully all over every single piece, then they get to see like their children's strengths have to come forward, their partner's strengths have to come forward, and they can be themselves and be confident and still be served. So I think that that's a big part of it, and really working on that confidence piece. I remember when I got pregnant and I told my boyfriend, who we were not together at the time, we actually were apart for a good amount of time before we got back together. But I remember sitting him and my mother down and going, I started this business. I am not a stay-at-home mom material, so don't expect that of me. And you guys are going to be on board and support me to build my business as well as have this baby. And it wasn't a request. It was like, again, get on the A train or get off. And it was nice because everyone knew where they stood. And I was just super clear that this was not, I think we have this tendency, and me being at the time, I wanted to tell her, girlfriend, calm down. Like, having a baby is not going to like be the biggest obstacle in your life to your own success. I wanted to tell her, like, if I had to go back and be like, calm down. But it was nice for her to really own, for me, myself, to own what I wanted, and to tell everyone how they could serve me, how they could help me out to get what I wanted, so that I could be feeling like I was still living in my purpose, even though having a child was not on the radar at the time.
Wow. That is both super beautiful and super powerful. You just shared so many things there. And one of the main ones that has jumped out for me is asking for what you want, asking for help. From different personalities, and different ones of us will do that very differently. You set out your soul very clearly. Nothing wrong with that. This is not a judgment at all of how you did what you did. But the most important piece that came out of that for me is asking for help, asking for what you want. It is something that we struggle with as women. We're going to be seen as weak. We're going to be seen as not being able to handle, what you kind of, created. All these sorts of hang-ups we have. So again, very inspiring, very, very inspiring. I love what you said as well about, in a nutshell, I'll say, us as women taking responsibility for ourselves. That it starts with that. It starts with that. And for those of us who are big personalities, and are used to taking charge, it's very hard. I speak of that personally. I quite honestly, it's hard to let go, especially when baby comes along. We take mother knows best to a whole other level that can cut our partners clear out of the picture. I remember breastfeeding, and I can speak of that very comfortably. I speak of it very comfortably anyway. And I think, well, I would not continue till now. She's 7, God forbid. But it was, to begin with, it was a very special bonding moment as it is for many, many women, for myself and my daughter. But it also excluded my husband. I realized, during that period, thinking, it'll be okay to get her onto the bottle as well, Cheryl. So, my husband can have the experience of feeding and bonding with her as well. And it was my mom who actually drew that to my attention. Moms, I tell you, So yes, and everything has to be done again back then, the way I like it done. It has to be folded the way I let it go. No one's gonna get hurt or no one's gonna die. Let it go. Cut yourself some slack because really the people we're hurting most are, ourselves. So I hear you there, and I love what you said. It spoke to that very strongly. Again, another super piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Allow me to share that. Give me wax on my soapbox. Take care of yourself.
Fantastic. All right. So, in all your experience so far, do you believe that any mom can become, and I like to say holistically successful, because we hear success in our society and we only see dollar and pound signs, any sort of denomination symbol, that's what we see. Do you believe anyone can truly become, any mom, a holistically successful businesswoman?
I definitely think so. I definitely think so, because there are so many ways to make money out there and to experience success. But the key to that, I think, is knowing what you want that to look like at the very least, and then testing things out. I think we are so afraid to experiment with how life could be different for us, that we get so attached to a certain vision, and then we get there, we have it, and we're like, oh, this isn't as happy as I thought it was going to be, or this isn't what I thought it was going to be, but we don't allow ourselves to experiment with it.
Yeah.
Even for myself, I look around at my life and I'm like, oh, before I was so focused on the money because that was going to get me a certain level of freedom. But I realized throughout this journey, I like freedom of time and choice. So to me, that makes me feel really wealthy. The more time I have on my hands, the more choices that I have without restriction, that to me makes me feel super wealthy and super joyous. So I think, but I would never have come to that if I hadn't said, okay, well, what are the other possibilities other than using money or a my level of income as a success? And there's so many different business models out there that can be utilized. You don't have to coach one-on-one. You could coach in group, or you don't even have to be a coach. You could do subscription boxes, make t-shirts, do whatever it is that you want to do. And there's so many different business models out there. You could totally rock them. The time that you want with your family, that give you the joy of feeling, that you're fulfilling your soul purpose. And what you're here to do. And I think more now than ever, there are so many stories of entrepreneurs who are doing so many different things that are making them really wealthy, that we need to start paying attention to that versus the traditional way that you build a business. And so I think that even is changing too. And when you can utilize what you do naturally, like really utilize your gifts and talents, you wouldn't have them unless you were here to serve you, right? And put them to work. Not looking at what everyone else is doing, like comparison kills. Like I just think comparison kills everything. And I've been there and done that, and tell you, like, stop the comparison game. We do it as moms. Let's just put that down too. So when you own, if you own that part, I mean, yes, anyone can build a business as long as you are following your own instincts about what's going to feel good to you. Because if you're not in joy, you're not having fun, you're not in love with what you're doing, it's going to make it really hard and a struggle at times to build a business. And I think that's something that we don't necessarily consider as important currency in terms of what we're earning and creating in our businesses.
I definitely agree with that. I certainly agree with that. I like what you said as well just a little while ago about, and it answered the holistically successful part of the question. And that's about what that really means for you. It's freedom, it's time and choice freedom. And I've gotten different responses from, the different mompreneurs on this panel. And again, no one has just highlighted money as the meaning of success to them. It's said in different ways. It was about choice freedom, time freedom, said in different ways. That's what it comes down to. And I think especially when we have children as well. that time freedom is a big piece, and choice most definitely as well. Yeah, good. I love that. I love that. So, the next one here for you. We've been hearing a lot about, work-life balance. It was, you've got going back for years, and even now, there's still a certain amount written about it and said about it. But then, for me, more recently, I've been hearing about, the blending the two. Which one do you tend to lean more towards, or you don't, for that matter?
Well, I like to believe in work-life harmony. Like they play together nicely. It may not always be exactly routine, but things just get done.
Yeah.
I think that, and I've done this, everything I'm telling you, like I do this myself, is I follow the energy of things. If I've got energy to do something, I will do it right then and there. Unfortunately, sometimes that means at 2 or 4 o'clock, between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning, I read the most amazing copy. Yeah. So if I wake up for some reason and I'm like, it's here, I'm going to do it. I will get to it, end up working, be done by like 6 or 7. My son is up, drop him off at daycare, come back, take a nap. And if I've got, later in the day, then that's what it is. But most of my stuff is, gotten done early. I know of another mom who gets up at midnight and works from midnight to 6 a.m. And that's how she does it. And I think it's all about where you feel that you're going to be the most productive. Exactly. And not being afraid to experiment. I mean, even if your partner thinks you're kind of crazy. I mean, men love curiosity, right? So the more curious and mysterious you can be and what you're doing and throwing them for a loop, no one ever gets bored, right? So follow like what feels good to you. I know for me, if I need to get stuff done, like administrative stuff done, I'm better like at 6 a.m. in the morning. If I need to create or be in like meditation to create my next big program, I'm going to do that in the afternoon. And right now for me, I work between 11 a.m. and I have a hard stop at 5 p.m. But even within that space, I'm not necessarily chugging along, I time block as much as I can. But if I get a wild hair to create something and I'm like, oh, this is why it wasn't popping before. It's right here now. Let me go ahead and write that down and get it done. And usually, I don't keep a running checks and balances, but everything always seems to work out. Right. In the end.
That's a different way to do that. But the thing is, it works for you. Yeah. And I think sometimes we can get lost in all the systems and methods that are out there, forgetting that we are unique beings. And yes, some things are definitely, some ways of working are definitely more efficient than others, but we're going to have anomalies in everything. And I do believe we have to work in ways that feel most aligned to us. Yes, I rise early. I get up at 5 every morning and start working from there. There are mornings I can easily get, and I don't wake to the sound of an alarm. I trained myself out of an alarm awakening, since at university, because it just messed up my day. It was something about the shock of that. That way. So since then, and that's a long time ago, I trained myself out of it. So 4 o'clock some mornings as well. And like you, if I'm lying there asleep and I can wake up with an idea, yes, I get up, I get writing, I get doing what it is I need to do. So I think the bit there is alignment, being aligned, as you said, with what it is you need to do.
Yeah, and I think it just simplifies everything. And I think the most of the work that I think we need to do as mompreneurs is dig down and make sure that what we are doing is what we truly desire and what feels good. And be quick to shut down anything that sounds like a should or so-and-so did it or something like that, because the more clear you are, the more simplified your path, and it's a lot easier to focus. Whereas if you're like all over the place trying to figure everything out, I spend most of my day sometimes getting in the right frame of mind and the mindset, because that's really like, you get that out of the way and you go gangbusters in productivity, because you're not worried about, there's no back and forth. It's just the focus. Now that you know exactly what you know what you're doing.
Hmm.
So I think that it's all about working smarter for moms. Definitely, you've got to work smarter, and that doesn't always mean harder. So just because you're busy doesn't mean you're productive. So it's all about, I think for me, just like that level of clarity. And then just what makes the most sense. And sometimes I challenge myself, you know, you have this great idea that had all these pieces to it. And I sometimes challenge myself, simplify that. What could be the fastest way to get to where you want to go? If you had to take like 5 pieces out of this, what would it be? And so I just have a practice of challenging myself to do things as simply as possible.
Yes. Yes. And it helps, doesn't it? You know, the simpler, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Right. So I know your son's only 3, you know, quite young. And the question I've been asking all the moms, I think most of who have older kids, older than 3 anyway, is what impact do you think being a mompreneur has on your child or children? It probably won't have the same application for you, your son being over 3. But what are your I don't know, hopes and aspirations as far as that particular question's concerned?
Well, my son is very spirited. So yesterday I had my laptop open. I don't usually work in bed most days, but when I'm tired, like I'll just bring the laptop in. And I had my laptop up and he shut it and he's like, all right, Mom. He's like, Mom, you're done working. Let's go play. So he's definitely conscious that Mommy works on the computer. And, you know, for him, I want him to know that he can do anything that he wants. I really want him to take that away. Like anything you put your mind to, that you can do that. And the thing, I think the gift that for me is, okay, Mom, it's time to go out and play and all of that. And it's funny, his idea of work, because I feel so much joy when I work. Like sometimes my work feels like play. But it's a lovely reminder to like, there's times you just got to shut it down, shut it off, and get out of the room, get out of the house, do something different. And so I'm hoping that as he grows up, because I have a feeling he's going to need lots of other things to keep him busy. So we'll be extracurricular activities, and I hope one of them is going to be entrepreneurship, where he learns that from a young age. I can tell you that one of the things that I almost wish I learned from a young age was how to be confident and sell myself to get to and had to know cues to actually sell. And so when I think about and I look at that, like, you know, kids are such good sellers. Well, if I did this and that, would you be willing to do this? We don't always apply that, you know, to ourselves and in our businesses. And that's definitely something I want him to walk away with, knowing that he can have a conversation with anyone at any time, and not be afraid to ask for what he wants as well out of those conversations. And I like to call them making courageous, bold requests of other people. So he's able to do that from a young age.
It's that core confidence again. That you would like to have him, that he would have, that you'd like him to have from as young as possible.
Yeah, and not being afraid, to reach out to different people, to explore the world. Like, I want him to be a little fearless with that, even though I'm probably going to have my own personal heart attack around that. But I want him to be fearless and to be bold. And so I'm hoping that he will definitely take that as he sees me doing things, and gets to go on trips with me. That's one of the things that I would love for him to do, is be able to come and travel when I speak, and so he can actually see and get out of the house and see what else is happening in the world. I think exploration and experimentation are probably the biggest things.
Lovely. I like that. Exploration and experimentation. Love it. I tell you, with Alexis's mom, beautifully modeling all that, I think your son's going to be very okay. All right. So we're down to our final question, Alexis. And can you tell us what is the number one habit, the number one strategy, and the number one insider secret that has enabled you, all of which have enabled you to enjoy the success you now to achieve, and sustain the success you now enjoy?
So
I messed that up for you, or should I say it again? You're okay.
So, okay, you want a habit, a strategy, and what?
And insider secret.
Insider secret.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the insider secret.
Insider secret, okay.
Wrong way to build a business. That's the insider secret.
There's no
wrong way. There's only your way and what you want. So the more you can hold on to that piece, I think, the more courageous that you'll be. In terms of habits, I have several habits. I have two that I would love to share. The first one is that have a practice where you are working out, like physically, even if it's just 15 minutes a day. I'm on a program that I do about 15 to 20 minutes of exercise a day. And I find that just helps to ground me in my body and to get me focused. And it's all about discipline for me, and having a practice that I do every day to instill that, like, no, come hell or high water, I'm working out. And so when we do one thing in one part of our life, it kind of bleeds to other parts of our life. We don't necessarily have to work on every single part of our life. We just work on one thing in one part of our life, and it kind of just moves on to other areas. And so whenever I am have a new income goal, I tend to switch up my workout. Okay. It helps to focus me, because we're doing something different. That something different is going to happen in my business as well. Okay. So that's kind of a little cheat there. And then I have also a daily meditation that I do that just gets me connected spiritually, that gets the creative juices flowing, that elevates my vibration. Because I'm all about, when you're trying to resolve problems, or you're trying to get to what's next in your business, you really can't create where you're going from a low vibration. So you can't be in the energy of like comparison or resentment or anything like that. I love getting into a state of joy. At the very least, willingness or openness, but also joy and peace, and seeing, what else is possible that maybe I didn't see before, because I was in a different state of being, a different energy state. Yes. And so I think the number one strategy, oh my gosh, there's so many.
Sorry, meditation was your number 2. Is that right?
Number 2 habit, yes.
Fantastic, got that, right. Your number 1.
So I think strategy is going with your gifts, whatever they may be. So for example, I do so much better on video and speaking to people and meeting people. And for a while, I wasn't really doing that in my business and couldn't really get traction. But then I would show up at conferences and meet people, and then all of a sudden, like, I would just have people just like, oh my gosh, I met you here and I knew I had to work with you and all of that. And I never really considered that to be a gift until maybe this last year or so. So we all have something that we're super, super good at. And so when you lead with that piece as a part of your business, you're going to see the most traction. And I would say that's probably my number 1 strategy, is going with the gift first, and then figuring out like where it fits. So like this new wave of like Facebook Live and doing video on YouTube, like, oh my gosh, so amazing, because that totally aligns with me. And it doesn't align with you, great. If you align with writing, then you need to just continue to write and express yourself and get as many eyeballs in front of your work as possible. Don't try to be something that you are not innately. And I think that we get caught up in, oh, I've got to learn this new skill, so I have to learn to be this way. But if it's not who you are naturally, it's going to look awkward. So just throw it to the wind and just be who you are and go with your gifts.
Go with your gifts. I like that. I really do like that. Because, excuse me, and I like it because, there is so much being peddled at us out there. So, be it Facebook, be it Twitter, be it, as far as social media is concerned, as an example, that's just one business aspect. There's just so much information out there. And I think a lot of us think we have to be doing it all. And we can't be doing it all. And as you've highlighted, not all of it, is what we're naturally good at, what we're aligned with. So I like that. It simplifies it. It focuses your attention. Follow your gifts. Follow your gifts. And what about the person or those women who don't know or aren't aware of what their gifts are?
Then I say look at the clues of where you have felt most joy or people have been in praise of you. Something that you did, and here's the connection of what did you do out of joy that you received the most positive feedback for? Was it a hobby? Would you think is a hobby like making bath bombs or soap or something? Was it organizing, jumping in and organizing, helping a friend organize an event at the last minute because you just love to organize things?
Yeah.
I think there are clues that are all around us, and when we stop and just take stock of, okay, how did I get here, or how did I get this opportunity, and you start to backtrack and look at all the clues that led to it, then you start to see the pattern of what your gifts and talents really are.
Fantastic.
And the beauty is, if it's not your gift and talent, you can just outsource the rest.
There we go. Lovely. Alexis, this has been absolutely brilliant. Truly brilliant. Just ton loads of nuggets that you've shared here with us, and I thank you from the depths of my heart for them, for showing up here today. Really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me. I love sharing the real behind the business and giving you guys courage to say what you want and speak up and know that, people will get on board or they won't get on board. Just don't be attached to it.
And that's what this Telesummit's been all about. Fantastic. So do you want to tell us about your free gift offer?
Yes. So I have a brand spanking new video training series that actually comes with an assessment. I'm super excited about that. I love to teach. So it's called Release Your Baggage, Blocks, and Barriers to Wealth. And it's an assessment that you get to take, that you get to see what of the 5 wealth blocking barriers that you have currently. And then the video series, I take you through how to understand how to shift that so that you can make more money. And I'm a comprehensive person. By no means is this like a huge, like hours and hours and hours of training. But I definitely laser in on what needs to shift for you and some of the ins and outs of creating change that people don't actually realize matters when you are creating change. And there are lots of ways that there's mindset stuff, there's different practices out there, but there are some core things that you need to do to make sure change sticks. And that's what I'm all about, because I truly believe, like, whenever you set your mind to something and you want to move forward, and this is really any area of your life, there's 4 things that you need to do to really embody that will help you to change faster if you use your intuition and you use energy as a part of the equation.
Fantastic. Love it. As I said, it's been a sheer delight. Truly, truly lovely. And I really appreciate you being on here, sharing so much from the heart, so much guidance, so much focus, so much. Not that we need anyone to give us permission, but in a nice, unintrusive way, letting myself and our listeners know it's okay. The last piece you gave me about following your gifts, doing what comes naturally to you. Don't try to be like anyone else or compare yourself to anyone else. It's said in different ways throughout, but definitely echoed here again and driving the point home. So, yeah, loved you being here. Really, really loved you being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. So this is where we wrap up and say goodbye to everyone. Alexis, if you can stay on the line so we can have a little catch up after. But thank you everyone for joining Alexis and me tonight. It's been wonderful, and I hope you got at least as much as I got out of this interview. Thank you, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.